Welcome back to the Spindle. Today we're joined by Sylvia from one of our favourite suppliers, House of Adorn. Together we'll be taking a closer look at their glue guide, a practical resource created to help take the guesswork out of choosing the right adhesive for materials. Sylvia, it's so wonderful to have you with us today. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Sophie. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Sylvia, one of my favourite questions to ask each guest we have is, what are you currently working on? This can be personal or a House of Adorn project that you guys are working on in the background. What's using up your time at the moment?
Yeah, so right now at House of Adorn, we are working on this workshop. We're giving to the people that are going to attend a dark fae ball. So it's like this fantasy ball, and we are helping them out with their masks and costumes. So we're doing lots of samples for that and working with that to work with the people to create this amazing kind of costumey things. It's really cool. It's very experimental, and everybody that's here in the shop is very excited about it and just like putting a lot of effort into it. I'm also working on testing the thermoplastics here in the shop, so we can give more information to people, just how do they work in all the environments and different industries and different approaches. And yeah, personally, I'm making like some like this headbands, kind of like embroidery headbands, like just something fast that I can do on watching TV.
That sounds like a very fun workshop. We'll have to keep an eye on your socials and see
Mhm.
if you share anything there so
Yes,
we can
yes.
see. Sylvia, why does choosing the right adhesive matter and how can this guide help? Um, I have referred to it myself when I'm choosing. I know I have my old faithfuls, but why, when you're starting out, could this guide, which I have printed out here for everyone,
I have one as
why is
well.
this guide so helpful?
If it's the first time that you working with a material, where it's pretty like straightforward to see which glue will work best with certain materials. Glues, as you know, they can like get affected, like they can react to the materials that you're using. You can have like change color, it can bleed. So we worked really hard with the manufacturer's notes and with customer feedback and testing ourselves to come up with this more like a straightforward information guide, so you can pick which glues will work with whatever you're working with.
A lot of our students vary from the very beginning all the way out to advanced professional milliners. So, we're all starting off at a different pace, and you want to kind of, save yourself as much hassle and as much mistakes as you can along the way. So, I find this guide's a really great indicator of where to start for different projects, especially if you want to try out a new material like adding embellishment or leather. So we're going to
Yeah.
take a quick look at the guide now. I've got some of these glues here that you've sent, some samples of these wonderful glues, and I did a little bit of testing myself as well. But can you walk us through the glues that you have on the list and maybe just give us a little brief rundown? Just for anyone that's never heard of them before, I know you've got some new glues in.
So here we have on the first column, like all the glues and the photos of it, so you can identify and see what they look like, not just by the name. And then we have all the materials that were most used on crafts and millinery. So we have leather, paper, plastic, metal, fabric, natural and synthetics, feathers, millinery straws, which are like cinnamon, ginseng, abaca, like the natural straws, styrofoam, and rhinestones and crystals to skin and fabric. Sorry, and then you can just match the glue to the material and see the rating. And then in the rating, we have excellent, good, fair, okay, and non-advisable. So the excellent is like the best for that material. Best results is what we found would be like your best use of that glue. Good is works, but there's a lot of variables, such as like the fabric that you're using, the temperature you're using at. So it works, but it's not like the best result that we can get from it. Then we have fair. It kind of works, but we can guarantee longevity. Like it's gonna stick to it, but you don't know how long it's gonna last. So for a quick fix, it might work if you're like that's the glue you have and you need something urgently. Okay, it's also more temporary than fair. Will be something that a little bit of movement, friction would probably, that's the thing that you glued on will come off. And non-advisable means that you probably have a reaction to it or it doesn't work at all.
Perfect. I love that. And you can see when you download the guide, it is color coded. So it's really easy to quickly see, like I would go off if I can, maybe just choosing things that are excellent and applying it to that particular material because, ultimately you want the best stick. But if you wanted to just tack something into place to test it out before sewing or something,
Yeah.
then maybe you can use something a bit lighter.
Exactly.
So
And if you already have the glue, then you can always attach, come to the guide and see, oh, would that work? And it's, oh, cool, it would. If you're overseas or if you don't want to work with any like really harsh chemicals, you have like a little button on the top, this hide dangerous goods. So if you click those ones, it disappears all the options of like dangerous goods that can be shipped internationally or can be going on a plane. And the other thing is if you click on the photo or the name, it goes straight to the page of the glue, so you don't have to be looking for it on a website after you decide which one you want to use.
wonderful. And I believe that you've got these styles of glue or brands of glue divided into three main brands. And you have replaced some of the older glues that maybe were hard to get, or, I find with suppliers, glues change over the years.
So we have three main families. We have the Aleen's, that's the new brand, the newest one we have. They are not classified as dangerous goods. So yes, those ones, we can send them overseas. We brought them in to kind of replace the helmets because we couldn't supply them anymore. And then they're very similar. So we have the first one would be like the original tacky glue, which would be like your all-purpose glue. The Aleen's, yes, you have with a pen, which is great if you want to make like precision gluing. So just a little, a very small tip to it. Yeah, it's got a little
Great.
dot. Then you have the fast grab tacky glue, which is very similar to the Helmer 450, which is like the OG milliners usually love. So that one would be like the replacement for that one. And we have the Duolet. This one is for crystals and rhinestones and flatbacks. That's pretty good as well. Great results with that. Then after that, we have the Yoo-hoo, which is, I know it's your favorite. It's my favorite as well. Is like the ones that is your millinery. That's the one, your all-purpose faithful Yoo-hoo that works in most materials. We also have the Yoo-hoo with solvent free, which, it does good for like shipping overseas as well because it's not a dangerous good. And we have the polystyrene one because if you just put regular glue, like solvent-based glue on a polystyrene, it's going to melt it. So this one is for if you need to glue polystyrene. And the last family is the E6000. That's our most popular one with our dance and costume crowd. We have the E6000, this your industrial strength. So this one I used on a shoe, so like on leather, and covered in rhinestones for a bride, and worked so well. Like she didn't have any missing stones at the end of her wedding, so that one's pretty amazing. Then we have the Fabrifuse. So this one, that's the one that the dance crowd loves the most because it goes with the fabric, like it doesn't get brittle after it dries. So if you need movement, if you need stretchy materials, this one is amazing. We have also the fray lock. So this is if you're working with organza, chiffon, like any light fabrics and you don't want to do a hem, you can use this to keep it from fraying. The stream tack, this one is cool if you need to practice where you're going to stick something because it's repositional. You can move it and just if you're testing things out. We have the E6000 spray adhesive. This is our also safe to ship overseas spray instead of being like a pressurized can that can go on a plane. This one is just a pump. So you can spray to like glue fabric to a base. And we have the can as well. Yeah, so that one is a light mist. Great if you're gluing fabric to a base, a buckram, for example. So you don't have like any volume of the glue. And the last ones would be, I don't have the sample here, but would be the spirit gum. That is just for attaching rhinestones to your face, like for makeup and like costumes and stuff.
Amazing. I love that. And what I quickly want to just touch on is the difference in the textures of glue. Because I find with every different glue, the tip of the glue is important and the texture of the glue and how tacky it is. So I
Mm.
noticed when I was doing some testing that the fast tacky glue was in fact a little bit more tacky than this one. However, it did take a bit longer to dry. So with something like when I'm using Yoo-Hoo, I know it's going to dry really quick so I can move on with my project. So if it's something that doesn't need to be, held on and applied with a time crunch, then you can definitely sub that out. It's also less toxic, so that's a good option. But just bear in mind the cleanup on your fingers for some of the glues is different as well. So it's really good to get these glues in your studio and try them out and figure out what's going to work best for you. But I did love the little tip applicator on this one. I thought that was super handy. And I can just pop the lid on as I'm going and it doesn't spill everywhere. These ones, the fact that they stand up is great as well. So you're not having that issue. And I did also love the Fabrifuse just for the fact that it's got a very tiny little tip already. And when I push it out, it just gives a little quite a thick glob. So it's good for control. I think with glue, especially if you're rhinestoning or something, you want that little tiny bit of glue and that control. Each glue has their own application, and it's really important to use it for what it's best, like we're saying, in the glue guide and in your experience. But I just thought I'd point out a couple of those little things. And also, apparently, this is your favorite international one, Sylvia. And I did trial it out with my wire work like I do in some of
Mhm.
my lessons. I know some people have done those lessons. Now, it does have a similar application, similar texture and feel to this one. It just doesn't dry as quickly and you might need a little bit more. So if you can't get hold of this one, this is a great option and it also dries clear and comes out clear as well. So lots and lots to go through there and testing out, but I think, when it comes to glues, it does become your personal preference and trial and error and making sure you're testing it out like I've done here. I went through with your glues, Sylvia, and I tried some different things. So normally, when I'm rhinestoning, I do prefer a hot fix rhinestone just purely because it's melting the glue onto the product. But if I don't have access to that and I've just applied it to some leather and some veiling, because I want to really test it out with the different layers. So I've listed what they are here. This is something you might want to do at home. And then I've used some different sizes of embellishment. I've got some pearls here because I know with the larger ones, I'm always a little bit paranoid that they're going to come off because you have to cover a greater surface area. But pretty much all of the glues that were recommended for leather that I tried here worked quite well, and I like to give them a little test, and try and pull them off, because, you don't know how rough someone's gonna be with their costume or whatnot, so it's definitely something you might wanna do, once you get the glues and with your particular materials and products, and, what you can glue onto leather is gonna be different to what you can glue onto silk or a synthetic or a stretchy fabric, so definitely giving that a go. Sylvia, what safety tips and best practices should milliners keep in mind when working with adhesives?
That's a very important question because it is a chemical product and it can get like smelly and can affect some people, especially if you have kids or pets in the house. So we always suggest that you look at the data safety sheet of the chemical that you're working with to make sure that it's safe. And we have that already on our website now on the page of the glue. You can access the data safety sheet to make it easier for everybody to get all the information that they need when they're working with something that they don't know. But the rule of thumb is to work in a open ventilated area. We use protection like gloves so it doesn't touch your skin, or use a brush or something else to apply the glue to it, and masks if it's something that's very the smell is really strong. The other thing that's very important is to how you store your glue. So you can obviously put out of reach to kids and pets. Mine stays in like a dark case, like a plastic case with 4 locks on top of it. So it makes it as hard as possible for the kids to get to it. And also know, because it's dark, the light won't affect it. And also dry environment and as far from like a heat source as possible. So because most of the glues here are flammable, except the non-dangerous goods aren't. So you don't want to have an accident in your studio or in your house.
It is something that you do need to be really mindful of to have a well ventilated area. And, maybe even just swapping out things like I know a lot of aluminium can sprays are quite dangerous because of the way they push the air out. So maybe trying out your little spray adhesive that you've got there. If it's not something that has to be, industrially attached, that could be a good option for someone to try out. We are all learning as we go, and it's always great to test out new materials. So I love that we've got such a vast variety of options. Who'd have thought we could talk about glue for so long? I know I
Yeah.
certainly could keep going on. Now, in 2026, is glue really the cardinal sin of millinery? I know there are some naysayers, some people who say, you should stitch everything, but my rule of thumb is always if it's the best application for the best result, then that's what you should use. Now, I'm not going to encourage everyone to go and get a hot glue gun out and just whack feathers all in
Yeah.
haphazard. If that's the way that you like to do your millinery, then no judgment. But what are your thoughts on that with glue and millinery and the rules of tradition?
Yeah, I'm fully aware that there's a bit of a prejudice against using glue. My training was very traditional, so it was like stitch everything. Glue is like last resort.
Hmm.
But even then, I think there is a place for glue. Like if you're making fabric flowers, or if you're making feather mounts, and if you're doing like the structure, um, wire structure, you need the glue to like keep things in place until it dries and attach everything properly. So there is a place for glue. Like you said, the hot glue gun probably not the best, but again, I guess if you're working with paper and
Yep.
like there's a place for it. It dries fast. If you don't want longevity, depends on what you're doing. Like with everything, you need to test and see what works best. But again, like I believe that there's a place for glue in millinery, definitely.
Yeah, I think we align with our values there. I know I'm of the mind of over engineering everything. But if you're just making a costume or your customer has a budget and they don't mind a hot glue gun, then that is completely fine as well.
I agree.
Everyone
Yeah.
everyone has a different method. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Don't forget you can download the glue guide using the video description. A big thank you to Sylvia and House of Adorn for walking us through the guide. We hope it helps our listeners feel ready to solve little design challenges and create beautiful pieces for their next hat making project. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sylvia.
Bye.